Hello, it's Go Open time again. Thank you for joining me tonight. It's going to be a fantastic program as we open up a can of worms in the music industry by examining the intricacies of intellectual property in the 21st century. Anyhow, it's kind of like opening up a can of Spam. Speaking of opening up different cans, we'll find out all about Spam when InWeb tells us about spam busting. Sounds almost rude.
Open source software exists as a result of the combined efforts of millions of computer programmers, users, and software vendors from around the world. They share their intellectual property freely, and they believe that software should cost nothing and should enrich the lives of users. Open source software is the alternative and biggest challenger to closed source or proprietary software. It generally costs the user nothing. It can be distributed freely to anyone. Download it, use it, modify it, and give it away. It's a whole new world. Open source is the future of computing.
Before we tuck in, remember to please pay attention, because in our competition, we ask you a simple question about the show, and you can win many different things. From LG, a 17-inch flat-screen monitor, you can win yourself some DVD drives, jeans from Soviet worth 1,000 Rand, or the HP bundle, a digital camera, and a little printer that's really quite sexy. But let's move right along. Copyright or copyleft? It's up to you. You choose. And to help you with that tough decision, we've got DJ Mark. DJ Mark, take it away.
When you create something, who owns it? You do, of course. That's what's called copyright. But if you're a commercial musician, you may have signed over those rights to a record company in exchange for them recording you and, of course, promoting you.
Coming to you from Johannesburg, South Africa!
In a world where knowledge is power, knowing how to keep control of your intellectual property is a must. Lose control and you could lose millions. Retain control and the sky's the limit. Let's take a look at music, one of the most common examples of intellectual property today.
A revolution is threatening the music industry as we know it. Maverick artists are refusing to sign to big labels. They're choosing instead to distribute their music on the internet. Meet Mark Friedman, entertainment lawyer extraordinaire.
We already know that with the internet, people are able to send MP3s to each other right around the world.
Meet Ian Osric, music producer and co-originator of the international hit Whito Quito.
We put Whito Quito up under the African section, and it became the #1 choice.
You release a song, millions of people copy it. Is this actually allowed? What about copyright? Well, by international agreement, copyright is automatically yours whenever you express your intellectual property in any form, be it a poem, a novel, a film, even plans for a house or a song.
When you do a deal with a record company, what happens to your copyright? Meet Dion Mars, ex-honcho at Gallows, South Africa, now a consultant in the entertainment industry.
If you do an average deal with a major record company, not only do you sacrifice your you retain your intellectual property, but they have the rights to the recording.
An artist's career consists of a number of different spheres. The recording industry is just one of those. There's music publishing, which deals with the writing of songs. Now, there's a difference between the right in a song and the right in a recording.
Under traditional copyright, there are no shades of grey, only the black and white of the law. Either you keep control of your copyright, or you sign it away completely. This has led to a new way of thinking. Creative Commons lets artists and originators of intellectual property distribute their works under a whole variety of conditions. And this also falls in line with the open source movement.
Meet Heather Ford, boss person of Creative Commons South Africa.
Creative Commons is a set of licenses. So basically it says that if I have a song, for example, I copyright that song, but then I attach this license on top of the song to say that this is copyrighted, I own it, but you can use it.
It will effectively come down to an individual choice for an artist to decide whether they want to give away material in terms of a Creative Commons license.
There's a lot of confusion in the world about copyright, deals, who owns what. New artists are particularly at risk of being exploited. Dion Mars explains.
A young artist looking for a deal will sign anything. I consult to quite a few young artists and I explain to them that if you sign this, that is what's going to happen. And they actually don't care, they just want a record deal.
A young musician who is blinded by the stars of a record company offering him a chance to have a contract, will say, we'll sign on the dotted line and you'll become a superstar with us. But at the same time, later on, he'll realize he also signed away his music.
Let's be clear on something, and that is that there is no standard record deal. There's no standard deal at all. You can negotiate whatever you like.
A lot of people actually want to get income straight away. So they want to get, if they record a song, they want to get the money straight away.
Musicians have to understand that with the internet and with them being able to control their own careers, they can actually, the people who create the music, they can take it back.
Creative Commons has about 4 million works licensed under its terms around the world. People are sharing music all over the place. It's legal.
Opportunities are opening up willy-nilly across the board for artists who previously were not really empowered to release their own material.
Now look, if you choose to give me your music for free, that's your right. So then why aren't the famous people doing it? Well, maybe they are.
For more than a decade, Wired magazine has been defining the cutting edge of computer culture. And now the knives are out. With the November issue of the magazine, Wired is carving up the entire music industry. "16 major international artists have contributed their music to this free cover CD. Well, the CD is special. All of the tracks on this disc are distributed under the Creative Commons license. What that means is that I can copy the CD legally and also remix those songs for my own use and even sell it. With cuts from artists such as Beastie Boys, David Byrne,
This is just a simulation, lines and pixels on a piece of paper.
and Gilberto Gil. Wired have given us a gift that keeps on giving, forcing the record companies to rethink how they get a slice of the cake.
Coming up next, we'll be hearing from the father of the Creative Commons, Larry Lessig. MWeb, not to be outdone, will be telling us how they've become spam super fighters using open source tools. Please do not forget our competition. There are so many gifts waiting to be won. Wonderful things given from us to you with love in a big shape that's quite clean and in a good way. Up to now, copyright law has been quite simple. I either own my own intellectual property or I sign or sell it to someone else. But what happens if I want to make copies of my own work and get it out there so other people can make copies for their friends? There's the rub. What if I want my stuff to reach people who might not necessarily want to pay for it? Well, Larry Lessig, a professor of law at Stanford Law School, big law school, was named one of Scientific American's top 50 visionaries, and he was named that for arguing against interpretations of copyright that could stifle innovation and discourse online. He's the man behind the Creative Commons license.
You're known as the father of the Creative Commons.
Well, the Creative Commons was actually the idea of Eric Eldred, who is a very important web publisher in the United States, publishing material in the public domain. And what he was concerned about was that increasing copyright restrictions were making it harder for people to make material accessible, even material that has no commercial value at all. Our objective was, let's find a way to make the system function cheaper, more simply, but respecting the underlying copyright. The difference between the two is that the Creative Commons license marks the content with the freedoms that the author intends the content to carry. So if you're an author and you don't mind people remixing your work, building on your work to make new work, you can mark your content in that way so that other creators coming across your work know that they're allowed to remix it, to extend it, and to build upon it without needing to get your permission first.
Did Richard Stallman's general public license have any influence in the Creative Commons license?
Oh, totally. We stole Richard Stallman's idea and built it in the context of culture. Right now the regime is all rights reserved. If you want to do anything, ask permission first, and if you don't, you are a pirate. We want to change that regime to a regime where authors can make it easy for people to understand the freedoms they have with the content.
Can you make money if you publish under a Creative Commons license?
This more flexible licensing system actually makes it easier for certain kinds of creators to make more money. And I myself, when I published my latest book called Free Culture, my publisher, Penguin Press, suggested we release the book free online under a Creative Commons license at the same time that the book was being sold in bookstores. Over 500,000 people downloaded the book. And most people don't want to read a book on a computer, so that actually increased the number of sales of the book.
There was a story with regards to Disney and how they wanted to extend the copyright with regards to the brand Mickey Mouse.
They desired to extend the term of copyright, and they concocted these extraordinary elaborate stories about why it was necessary. The irony is that the Disney Corporation is now making it so that nobody can do to Disney what Disney did to the Brothers Grimm, by making it so that copyright rules restrict the opportunity of people to build on Disney's work, even though Disney built upon other people's work. One of the things we hope that Creative Commons might do is make it easier for culture internationally to be spread and understood and compete with this dominant Hollywood model. I think its most important contribution right now is going to be in the context of developing nations.
Some rights reserved. I'm quite reserved. I am. Can you see? That's reserved. That's one. I reserve the right not to get spam.
What would you do if more than half your mail was junk mail? The reality is that junk mail isn't such a problem these days, but its electronic counterpart is.
Well, spam is the scourge of the internet. It's grown exponentially in the last few years as email has become more and more widespread.
Since 2002, internet use has grown from 200 million to 800 million people worldwide. In that period, spam has grown from a paltry 20% to approximately 65% of all internet traffic. At current rates, it will expand to 80% or more in the next 2 years.
It completely sullies the idea and the point of the internet and of email, which is much easier, faster, quicker to use communication.
MWeb, one of South Africa's largest internet service providers, has been fighting the phenomenon for many years. We asked them how one falls prey to spam.
There are various ways for email addresses to get out into the spam world. There are organizations out there collecting email addresses. There are various spiders and robots on the internet searching websites, looking for places where email addresses are entered, and these are collected. If there's a live body at the other end of an email address, in other words, someone responding to an email, either responding and saying, please don't send me this, or please unsubscribe me, that email becomes a usable email address.
So you're telling me if you ask to be removed or unsubscribed, you will in fact be targeted?
Yeah, they consider you a live body, and that becomes a very valuable email address.
Where's the money? How do these people make money? Because somewhere they've got to be making money, and essentially spam is an economy of scale. You're sending out 500,000 emails. If you get 50 or 60 replies, you can make $50 or $60.
In October, spam is estimated to have accounted for 80% of all internet traffic. How long is it before we are buried underneath a mountain of junk?
When did MWeb decide that spam was becoming such a problem that they had to enact a policy to prevent it?
Well, about 2 years ago, I guess, and the last 18 months in particular, we started seeing anything from 40 to 60% of incoming mail as spam. And we had been for a long time investigating different ways of combating spam. So we had very simple filters in place when spam techniques were still quite simplistic. Since then, of course, we've advanced our technology to include a system which we think is very, very effective against fighting spam.
But how do you fight it? How do you decide what is spam and what isn't?
Well, we've selected a piece of software called Spam Assassin, which is an open source technology. So we've taken the software, we've looked at what it does, and it's really based on a technique called heuristic programming, which is in essence a branch of artificial intelligence. Now with the Spam Assassin product, we have the ability to set the level of effectiveness, and we've set it to a level where we try and avoid creating what is commonly called a false positive. In other words, we don't like to block mail that is actually legitimate. And so the spam filter learns about incoming email, and it builds on a history.
It's a bit like building a house and having, leaving the doors and windows open. Maintaining the software, maintaining the virus definitions, downloading new spam filtering software when it comes out. I just think it's unfortunately part of the game.
Oh look, It's 1 minute to Shuttleworth. Let's go and talk to our resident expert, Mark. He has some things to say about a very useful piece of software, and it's called the GIMP, which makes you wonder how long it will stay software.
Today we're doing it with another fantastic piece of open source software. This is the GIMP, an image editing application. So you use this to retouch photographs or for creating whole new images, digital images for the web or for design. If you're an artist, then this is the software for you. It's available on Windows and on Linux.
Before you ask, the word GIMP stands for GNU Image Manipulation Program. And you know what the GNU part of that means. Yep, it's distributed free under another acronym, the GPL or General Public License. It has the power of costly professional programs such as Photoshop and PhotoPaint, with features such as layers, palettes, and a wide variety of tools and filters. And because it's open source, the developers listen to their users and they release relevant enhancements early and often. The GIMP is available free in lots of languages on Linux, Windows, Mac, and Unix.
Now that you've grokked the GIMP, check out a book called Grokking the GIMP. You can get it off the GIMP website at www.gimp.org.
To find out anything about our program and any of the details you might have missed, go to our website, www.goopensource.org. It's all there, it's all detailed, you'll find whatever you need. Coming up next, an awesome competition with prizes worth thousands. Viruses are bad and spam is bad. How do you fight them? Well, let's ask an expert. Here's Barry Irwin. Barry? It's time to meet our Boffin of the Week. Please meet security researcher at Rhodes University, Barry Irwin. Hello, Barry.
Hi.
What is the greatest single threat to my existence online?
The very fact that you actually are online. If you're going onto the internet without firewall or other sort of security precautions, you are vulnerable to any one of 1 million people out there.
You were talking earlier about that virus that almost crashed the entire internet. I mean, where does it all end?
As fast as people discover vulnerabilities, other people will be making use and exploiting those vulnerabilities, and you've got your third column of people trying to write protection.
Do you think that there's benefits to open source? Or, I mean, is it just because of the low usage at the moment that makes it more or less vulnerable to sort of security threats?
Some of the proponents will say, but look at open source, it has all these holes. Yes, they have holes, but again, the developers of those products are usually very, very quick to respond, often a matter of hours. To sum it up, I'd say open source solutions are probably, in the long run, a far more secure option to go with because of the fact they are constantly being reviewed. They are being run in multiple places. There are more eyes actually checking through the source code for potential problems.
How do we control the amount of spam that arrives that's not actually relevant mail to what I do?
There's a couple of ways, regardless of what mail client you use, a couple of sort of simple principles that one can follow. The first is don't go and put your email address in every website that asks for it. The other options are never actually reply to spam.
What can open source products offer the normal everyday user in terms of security?
So there are 2 open source products that have quite a nice set of abilities to help the end user deal with the deluge of spam that's coming in these days. One of them is a really nice mail client called Thunderbird. It does everything that your commercial clients do and more. And one of the nicest things it has built in is it's got a bit of an artificial brain built into it. It can tell you when it thinks that mail that has come in is actually spam. And through over a period of about a month or so, you can teach this thing to get more and more accurate.
What is the best piece of advice you can give as a security researcher?
Make sure your antivirus is up to date. Make sure that any patches for whatever operating system you are using up to date. And make sure and just keep an eye out for if there are any updates for the actual applications you use.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks very much.
And we hope that you keep us safe in the future.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Barry. Go Open is all about empowerment, which is why I'm urging you to make a note of the web addresses we're about to show you. The first one is for Creative Commons. You just heard the arguments. Now you can become an intellectual property rights activist. Can you handle that?
If you have words, pictures, or music that you want to post on your website, how do you go about protecting it while you share it? Easy. Just go to the creativecommons.org website and choose the protection plan that suits your purpose and personality. Let's look at an example, shall we? This is the license the Creative Commons site uses for their work. You are free to copy, distribute, display, and perform the work. to make derivative works and make commercial use of the work, but in order to do this, you must give the original author credit. So when we save the Creative Commons logo on our computer, we can pretty much do whatever we like with it, as long as you credit the original author. Now that we've worked up your appetite for intellectual property, let's get arty. OpenPhoto.net is fast becoming one of the funkiest art galleries on the web. Artists on the site can share their work under the Creative Commons license, which means that you can share your work to an appreciative public and maybe find yourself an art piece that catches your eye. And if you want to find out about how the eye actually works, get en.wikipedia.org in your sites. Wikipedia is a free content encyclopedia in many languages. Wikipedia's content is created by its users, and its pages are always subject to editing, so no article is ever finished. Now that's a far cry from having to pay for your encyclopedia, isn't it? So now you can get your very own creativecommons.org license to distribute your intellectual property. Then you can share your artwork on openphoto.net using your newly found freedom to distribute it under terms chosen by you. Lastly, en.wikipedia.org lets you expand your knowledge and everybody else's for free.
Encyclopedia Britannica, a third of the size, very expensive. Wikipedia, 3 times the size and growing, absolutely free. Wow, big choice there. I wonder which one I'd get. I don't know. Speaking of expensive things, we're about to give you some fantastic prizes. This week you can win a 17-inch flat screen monitor from LG. You can also win some DVD-ROMs, those are drives. You can win jeans worth thousands of rand from Soviet. And you can also win the Hewlett-Packard bundle, that's a camera and a printer. Fantastic prizes. All you have to do is answer this question. Is Larry Lessig the father of Encyclopedia Britannica, Creative Commons, or Wikipedia? SMS the answer to 34357. And remember, it's 2 rand an SMS. Here are the winners of last week's competition.
Congratulations to Viva Visser, who wins a 17-inch LG monitor. Dawn Murphy and Robbie Boddington get LG DVD writers. Razia Ali and Etienne Miller win 1,000 rand Soviet jeans vouchers. Anita Kutia wins that HP digital camera and printer. Congratulations!
Next week on Go Open, we find out why developing countries all over the world are making it legal precedent for their governments to embrace open source. John Mad Dog Hall, one of the open source cognoscenti, which is a very interesting Italian word, which means cognoscenti in English, makes a very strong case for the open standard. Also, we look at Limpopo, where call centers are creating employment for people in one of the poorest states in South Africa. It's really out there, man. It's real. So stay free and stay open. Until next week, I'm going to go this way. You go that way. Okay, I'll meet you back here next week.